This is Obliterations. And I have a number of examples, and this is by no means exhaustive. I just thought this was an interesting topic. So here, let's see a few of them. Here's an example where there's a change of government. The Albania as a country was created in 1912, and they took the Turkish stamps on hand and they overprinted them with a bold black Albanian double eagle, blocking out the Sultan's signature, the Tugra. So what I mean by an obliteration is an overprint that does more than just add information. It's an attempt to cover up something that is considered, something that they want, something that the issuer wanted to blot out. Here's another example of the same issue: the double eagle on a piece of postal stationery. The double eagle overprints are listed as the first issues of Albania by Scott, but that's not the case with other catalogs. I'll do a presentation sometime on what is the first stamp of Albania, because that's a controversial question. This is the imprint which was used for another issue of stamps. They took this circular imprint and they added a denomination to it to make postage stamps. This is made during the 1881 occupation of Peru by Chile, where we have the Peruvian coat of arms blotted out by the Chilean coat of arms. I'm sure there are many examples of this kind. I just went through my collection and picked out a few that struck me, but as I say, I'm sure there are many other examples that could be offered. By the way,
there's some really interesting ones in South America around that time, where they've got overprints that have the new dictator, a portrait of the new dictator that's put over the face of the old dictator.
Yes, there are some from Peru like that. Here are a group of what I call rejected rulers. In this case, first of all, we have Serbia. This inscription at the top, believe it or not, says Serbia in Cyrillic script. And what happened here is that there was a change of dynasty. I can't give you all the historical details, but the kings of Serbia were from the Obrenović family until this guy. And then another family, the Karađorđes, took over. And I can maybe tell you more about that on another occasion. But these stamps were never issued with, this is King Alexander Obrenović. They were never issued, but they took the unissued stamps and blotted out his face with the Serbian coat of arms. And then after that, the next issue showed the next king, Peter Karađorđević.
Allan, you're saying the first stamp was never issued, but then it was overprinted and was used?
Yes, it was never unoverprinted, but the overprinted stamp was issued and used. Yes, and it's the unoverprinted stamps do exist. They were remainders that found their way into the philatelic market, but they were for postal use without the overprint. So here we have Emperor Franz Joseph of Austria, and this stamp on the right is overprinted after the creation of Yugoslavia. It's the kingdom, it's the top line says kingdom, and then it's SHS, which stands for Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes. The word for Croatia in Croatian actually starts with an H. It's Hrvatska.
That's because it wasn't Yugoslavia at that point. It was the kingdom of the Slavs.
That's right. It was called the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes until about 1929, when they started to use the word Yugoslavia. That's right.
Yugo means south, the South Slav.
Slavs, right. Here's another example. On the left, we have an unissued stamp for Albania. with the king at the time. His name was Wilhelm zu Wied, and he was part of the family, the European family that provided monarchs for many, many countries. The kings of, Greece, Bulgaria, England, Germany, and many other places were all from this one family. These stamps also were never issued. They were created in 1914, just as World War I was getting started and Albania fell into a chaotic state. The king evacuated, the stamps were never issued, but in 1920, they, after the war was over and the peace was settled, they dug these stamps out and they overprinted them because he was no longer king. Albania had been made a republic. And so they were overprinted with the Albanian, a different version of the double eagle again. And they were used in one particular district of Albania that had its own stamps briefly before the country was reunited. This was for Shkodër, which is also called Scutari in Italian. It's on the sea coast of the Adriatic. And here we have the Sultan of Turkey. This obliteration of his face was due to the change of monarchs or change of sultans. This is Mohammed V, and when Sultan Mohammed VI took over, the stamps were reissued with the face blotted out on the occasion of Mohammed VI taking over. Here are more examples. It's a whole set of stamps with different obliterations. The face, this is the original stamp with Mohammed V, and then here's the obliterated version. And the tugra, this is the Sultan's insignia, the tugra, and this is Mohammed V's tugra, blotted out and replaced by Mohammed VI's tugra, which is similar, very similar signature, but slightly different. And so it was, obliterated the other one. Well, here is another rejected ruler. This is the only actual postage stamp of the three. This was issued by Austria in 1945. They issued a number of these Hitler stamps overprinted with Österreich, Austria. This is the only one that actually obliterates the face. There were others that didn't include the obliteration, but anyway, this is my subject, so I include that stamp. The other stamps, okay, this is not actually an obliteration unless you want to consider it maybe an artistic obliteration. These were created by the intelligence agencies of the US and Britain as essentially propaganda stamps. And you have to be careful. Many people are interested in these. They're fascinating items, but there are many forgeries. There are versions of this stamp with the face of Hitler transformed into a skeleton that are not genuine. This, I believe, is one of the genuine ones. And this on the right is a totally fake, fabricated issue. The idea of blotting out the face of Hitler with a skull kind of took hold, and a lot of people seem to like the idea. So ever since the original ones were created during the war, there have been fake fake overprints issued. And this is just one example that you can find. You can see many of them online, along with warnings, that a lot of them are fakes. Or in fact, as far as I know, all of them.
Is that third overprint, Alan, on the 15 stamp? The stamp is real and the overprint is not.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
Definitely.
On that middle stamp, you see they changed the word Deutsches to Futsches. Futsches means gone, vanished, kaput.
There's a couple of German error stamps from the 1910 to 1920 period where they accidentally printed Futsches Reich.
Really? Here's, this is an overprint that has been obliterated. The overprint is for the short-lived Hungarian Soviet Republic. Only lasted less than a year in 1919, and when it was overthrown and the non-communist republic followed, they blotted out the overprint with two different obliterations. This one and this one, both with the date 1919. These stamps are pretty common. They're not expensive. And there were lots and lots of overprints of this period, some of which are rather expensive. And of course, there are many forgeries, once again. Forgeries are an especially bad problem with overprints, because you can take a genuine stamp and it's pretty easy to make an overprint that looks like the original one. This is a piece of text, and it's actually micro printed with a magnifying glass. You can read this. It's a passage from the records of parliamentary hearings in the British Parliament in 1954, in which they were discussing what to do about Cyprus. There was unrest among the various populations of Cyprus, the Greeks and the Turks. Some wanted Cyprus to become independent, and some wanted it to become part of Greece, and some wanted it to become part of Turkey. And as we all know, what ended up happening was that most of Cyprus is an independent country now, but there's a northern part, the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, which is only recognized by Turkey. But nevertheless, it's under the control of a local government there. The passage of the parliamentary debate is reprinted on this stamp with a big blot over most of it. And I actually read through it. It turns out that it opens with somebody saying that Cyprus should become part of Greece, and Churchill is quoted saying that would be a wonderful thing if the Greeks were to acquire Cyprus. But then another speaker gets up and says something along the lines of, look, here we are, the imperial power imposing our will as usual. We should let the Cypriots decide. If they want to be independent, then we should let them be independent and not enforce our views on them. Well, the government in Athens took offense at these comments, and so they issued these stamps with the text blotted out by this ink blot. And that's the end. That's all the obliterations I could come up with.
Interesting.